Welcome everyone to the PYRESWAP show. Can you guys see me and hear me? Do you guys like this hat? Do you guys like this hat? All right. This hat's very important. This hat's very important. But I'm not going to explain why it's important, okay? I'm just going to let you see it for a second before I frisbee it off the set, okay? Now, today I want to tell you guys a quick story, okay? Can I tell you guys a quick story? Do I have your permission to tell you a quick story? Here on the New Year's Eve? Okay. Once upon a time, 5 didn't know marketing. 5 did 4 YouTube interviews and 4 Twitter spaces in June of 2024. This was not effective. Then, determined to win at all costs, 5 learned and researched marketing. 5 tested his progress on learning and researching marketing with how to tell when to sell. Data from how to tell when to sell implies 5 is now between 30x and 900x better at marketing than before. Does that make sense? Now, this story ends with 5 doing 20 YouTube interviews and 20 Twitter spaces in January of 2025. So, based on this multiplier, if I'm 30 to 900x better, let's see, that would be the equivalent. If we were going to literally cancel out Twitter Spaces, let's literally not do the numbers on Twitter Spaces at all. If we're talking about just 4 YouTube interviews, if we're multiplying that by 5 and then we multiply that by 30, this is the equivalent of doing 600 YouTube interviews at the June of 2024 level. Does that make sense? That's at 30x. If we do 900x, it's 900 times 4 times 5. Okay, that is the equivalent of doing 18,000 YouTube interviews at the June of 2024 marketing skill set. Does that make sense? So in January of 2025, 5 will do 20 YouTube interviews that will theoretically have the marketing and promotional output of 600 to 18,000 YouTube interviews done in June of 2024. Good story, right? I guess we'll see how it ends, right? I guess we'll see, right? Did you guys like that story? Did you guys like that story? Data tells a story, right? And the story gives you data. Yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out. But I wanted to actually also show you guys and maybe talk to you guys about what I actually learned and how I applied it. Does that make sense? Because you can learn stuff all day long. If you don't really apply it, it's like you're not really doing shit at all. Does that make sense? So a couple things that I learned is using empathy, and in fact doing that empathy type of narrative, which you saw in How to Tell When to Sell. So the How to Tell When to Sell story starts off with me saying, you felt it before. We've all felt it. Right? Literally, you felt it before. We've all felt it. It literally has an emotional empathy bridge from the get-go. And this doesn't mean that everyone's just going to immediately melt. But the point being is you start using language that puts you in the same story as them. Does that make sense? In fact, the future versions of this are going to be an actual personal story about my actual experience. In How to Tell When to Sell, it's more about creating the most general version of that story, then tying it in to Martin Zweig's story, and then, bundling it together with, Pyre BNB, Pyre Phantom, Pyre AVAX, right? The entire point of How to Tell When to Sell was to prove or test whether or not we could have strangers on the internet, on the Web3 internet, take a series of actions. Does that make sense? The first action, click the link. The second action, join the Discord. One action, two action. Right? And by the way, it's the most successful thing we've ever done on Twitter. I don't want to disparage or besmirch anything else that's happened on Twitter because we have people who work hard on our Twitter. But how to tell when to sell by the data is the most effective thing. Like by the numbers of where it's placed. Just being honest. Just being honest. By the way, Twitter did not like us advertising it, and they halted our campaign. But I don't care because they proved that the theory works. The way that how to tell when to sell will be improved is that instead of this will happen later, by the way. This is not learnpyreswap.com. Later, how to tell when to sell will actually funnel into learnpyreswap.com. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So there's a thing called traffic theory, and traffic has three temperatures: cold, warm, and hot. And how to tell when to sell is all cold traffic right now. You know, Alessia, we might be able to through something called Microsoft Clarity, but I think we won't have that fully implemented until like Sunday, but we should have that soon. So we don't have that yet, but I believe we will have that soon. Yeah. Just to be honest, we don't have it yet, but we are implementing it right now. And we will also, Alessio, we will also have it implemented on PYRESWAP.com. Oh, exactly. Oh, I completely agree. We'll have it on PYRESWAP.com, PYRESWAP.finance, other sites as well, even the docs. Like I'm very interested in putting clarity on every single possible website we have. So cold is like, let's put it this way. I'll draw this out and see if I can explain this. There's a So, to describe what cold traffic does is that it's describing a level of awareness. It's describing a level of awareness and like a level of intent, okay? So, it's people that are effectively brain dead scrolling Twitter, and they happen to be reading replies on Twitter from where we post this link, right? They happen to be reading replies. So, legitimately, they actually do click because they're just scrolling through Twitter replies, right? And the thing is, what does the link say? It says, how to tell when to sell crypto profits without crypto panics. Does that make sense? You guys know what it means. And it literally says, it literally speaks to the desire. Because like they when they read it, they're like, you know what? I do want to know how to tell when to sell. And I do want to have crypto profits without crypto panics, right? And then they go through how to tell when to sell, where we end up like compelling them to join the Discord. But this action joining the Discord is not really going to get them into converting because we haven't warmed them up enough yet. Does that make sense? We're literally like, can we get this group of, I don't want to use the word sheep, but it's like, can we get this group of cats that were herding into this pen and then into another pen? Does that make sense? We're trying to get cats into one pen and then into a second pen. So that's the concept that we're proving. Warm traffic is for people who know who have heard of your company before. So when you do a YouTube interview and the people that take action based on that YouTube interview, that is all warm traffic. So when we compared the numbers from June and December, to be clear, one of those is cold and the other one is warm. So I don't want to like besmirch myself, but they're not exactly one-to-one. It might be better, it might be worse. The fact of the matter is though, like we had only 97 warm joiners. Anyways, I'm not gonna even compare the one-to-ones here. But the point being here is they were problem aware and they still were really only motivated by curiosity, right? And then solution, these are people that are actively searching for you. They know they have the desire, they know they have the problem, they know about your solution, and they also believe it. So these are people that are like Googling you to go find you. Does that make sense? There's no real reason to have to worry about hot traffic until you're doing like search engine optimization. Does that make sense? You're trying to capture like hot leads. Warm is more about where we're going to focus to for the YouTube and the Twitter spaces, okay? Because we're going to be there on purpose promoting. But the fact of the matter is is that if you start communicating with people, you can bring a cold audience and convert them to a warm one. Does that make sense? So once they're warmed up, you actually are meant to now put them into a warm traffic funnel. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So how to tell when to sell later on will funnel into learnpyreswap.com, which is a warm traffic funnel. So how to tell when to sell, it might, instead of sending them to Discord, it might send them to a second page, or it might send them directly to learnpyreswap.com. I'm not going to get into that now, but I want to give you the theory behind what I'm talking about today. Okay? All right? So when it comes to the fact when you're doing a warm interview, it's like everybody is already accepting this as a promotional. They're literally willing to hear you out. Do you get what I'm saying? Like they're already giving you their attention. You know what I mean? Like they're already consented to learn about this stuff. And you're talking to a different avatar at this point, right? So when you're doing this, you still want them to kind of go on this journey of finding points of agreement with you so they can effectively convert. Now, they say that persuasion, by the way, persuasion is sometimes described as invading a castle. Have you guys ever heard of that? Isn't it great that we get to use a castle metaphor? Talk about PYRESWAP persuasion. Persuasion is an invasion. And we're talking about the castles of people's defense. Now there's 3 castles. The first one is the audience's bias. I'll just write it as bias. The second one is skepticism. And the third one is the past pain. Yeah. And believe it or not, this past pain is actually from being lied to by people that look, sound, and talk just like you. That is the pain. But these are the 3 castles you have to invade. And it's said that metaphorically, but it's not really meant to sound like it's aggressive. In fact, it talks about persuasion as requiring to be gentle. When you talk about gentle persuasion, there's 2 concepts here. I'm jumping through this so fast. I shouldn't even do this right now. Okay. Pacing and then leading. Now, do you guys know which YouTube video of ours like always had amazingly good views? The PYRESWAP origin story. And do you guys know why that origin story was so, I think, popular? Because I was describing events that lots of people remembered back in 2022. So when you do pacing, you're talking about matching people at the pace they're at. So that's everything from talking to their worldview, talking to their situation, describing like when you were in their situation, describing the similarities you have with them. And then what you describe with a personal story is you describe the evolution of like how you changed. You guys get what I'm saying? This is not the exact same thing as the Martin Zweig story, to be clear. But emotion is key to persuasion. Emotion is key to persuasion. And I have in the past always tried to be as hyper analytical as possible and just focus on numbers. But believe it or not, if you do that, you don't solve the preliminary problems of getting people to want to talk about numbers with you. And most people just don't. Yep, most people just don't. Now, you can motivate them to talk about numbers with you, but that starts off with meeting them. Okay, all effective communication connects the speaker. I'm going to draw something out here. All effective communication connects the speaker to the receiver, the speaker to the subject, and the receiver to the subject. And this is called the communication triad. Have you guys ever seen this before? Okay, I was once like you. I also hadn't heard of the communication triad before. But all of that changed when I started learning and researching about marketing. Now, I've heard of the communication triad before, and I know exactly how to apply it. And this has opened up a whole new world to me on how to connect with people, to a subject, to myself, and connecting the subject to them as well. Does that make sense? Fantastic. I knew you guys would understand. And thanks to everybody who's connecting emotionally with us on Twitch and Kick and YouTube and X right now. Thank you so much. So anyways, okay. Another thing that really I didn't know that I had to censor. I had to censor myself is on a certain subject as well. And what's interesting here is how different it is with what you're selling, like the product, and how you communicate. Because you know what you actually can't put in your message at all? You can't put in the idea of luck or randomness. Both luck and randomness have to be completely eliminated, like, from your messaging. But like when I talk about economics, you like have to address the idea of like this dynamic volume of chaos. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Right? And I thought that like, you know, it would be transparent to like address that as the nature of all markets. But I didn't realize that most people, like their brains, they can't perceive that at all. So what's weird about this is that if you think about like the current meta of meme coins, like there is nothing that really decides this winner or loser versus like whether the dev knows the best way to sequence the volume bot actions. Do you guys know what I mean? Like the dev planning the sequence and the algorithms of the volume bots and what they do, that's going to be what determines whether they win or lose. Well, thank you, Abolito. I see a big 2025 for PYRESWAP as well. In fact, Abolito, by the numbers, I think it should be 600x to 18,000x bigger than it is now. Just throwing some numbers out there. Just throwing some numbers out there. Possibly 600x to 18,000x better than it is now. Just from my insistence on researching things the right way. Okay? But yeah, you have to reject, you cannot put luck or randomness in your message. Yeah. And then by the way, paralyzed minds don't take action. Paralyzed minds don't take action. Did you guys know that our brains have two systems? Have you guys ever heard this before? Who here has ever heard of System 1 and System 2 when it refers to our brains? No, okay. So, Alessio, System 1 is the amygdala, which is the emotional part of our brains. And I know that if you and I have anything in common, Alessio, it's that we kind of despise it. We kind of despise the fact that the amygdala is so critical to our existence. Yeah. Yeah. Not even Dr. Mack. It's more like the animal part. Yeah. But although Dr. Mack, from this book that I'm reading, do you know that, by the way, do you guys know that our brains perceive our brains perceive threats of physical pain the exact same way they perceive threats of intellectual pain. Did you guys know that? Our brains, like the parts of our brains associated with assessing physical pain, is the same part that assesses psychological pain. And by the way, do you guys know why echo chambers form on social media? Because echo chambers form to minimize psychological pain. People strive to minimize psychological pain. Yeah, by the way. Yeah. So I realized in the past, and you can really see how bad I was at marketing in the past with like the beta instruction guide. Like I was just so absolutely hostile, it was insane. Even the story about Johnny Marmoset, it's like, even though I think a lot of people like that story, because it was a story, it was still, I could still have told it better in the sense that, we are all Johnny Marmoset. For those of you who remember that story, like truly, you have to understand, I was like in a state of rage from like July of 2022, pretty much all the way until July of 2024. Now that I think about it. But we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. And by the way, I insist we're gonna save the Phantom Opera too. Yeah, because I think that I have now personally read enough marketing books in the last 90 days to qualify for a major in marketing. And since my brain is just better at okay, I'm kidding. Since I think do you guys know what PYRESWAP has uniquely? We actually think about the end user. Like we're actually thinking about like who is our end user and like what are they doing. And other projects, they don't have that language set up. And I realized that we had that idea in the beginning, but it was too fucking convoluted. I remember there was a guy in this chat, he referred to it as convoluted, and I thought it was an insult, which is, what it was. And I didn't realize that even though in my head, it's like looking at the floor plan of like a one-bedroom apartment, to other people, it's like looking at the floor plan of a hospital. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like that is arguably, I did not realize, but hey, at least I know where my area of strength is, right? But I just now realize the real labor for the rest of my life is conveying stuff from there into human society, right? Into like the big Venn diagram that we all occupy, not me in an ivory tower on another planet. Does that allegory make sense? System 1, again, is the amygdala. It is it's the emotional impetus. It's what causes us to take action. System 2 is the analytical part of the brain. So whenever you're really thinking and learning and processing, most of the time, 2024-5 was talking System 2 language. And therefore, what was I not doing? I was not marketing. So I need you guys to understand, there's Five the professor, and now there's Five the promoter, and these two people can't speak at the same time. That is the lesson from 2024. That's all it is. Do you guys get it? Five the professor, Five the promoter. Alessio, I know you do. That's why you've been here for fucking 7 years, right? I know you do. I know you guys love Five the Professor. I love Five the Professor too, because I think I'm really serving people when I teach them shit. But Alessio, in order for people to like Five the Professor, I think they first have to meet Five the promoter. Does that make sense to you guys? And also in marketing, they talk about this concept. The educational stuff for PYRESWAP or for me has to be deeper into a funnel. People have to earn access to Five the Professor. Not saying people have to pay me, but they have to they have to go through a certain amount of videos first to find Five the Professor content. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like, it'll all be on the internet, easy as fuck to find. Shit, you guys all know about docs.pyreswap.finance, right? Not that hard to find. Docs.pyreswap.finance, right? But legitimately, like, that's the stuff that I have to build a driveway to that house. Do you guys get what I'm saying? We have to build a driveway to this mansion. Allegorically speaking. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Because right now we have a mansion, but it's in the fucking woods. And there's a swamp. Yeah. Hilarious. Hey, I'll take it, Alessio. I'll take it. Well, you know, Alessio, let's put in the top 10 for Phantom Chain. How about that? Let's put in the top 10 for Phantom Chain. And we're not, and by the way, Alessio, we're going to make it. Yeah, we're going to make it. Yeah. Oh, I would say it, 90% of it's marketing. And I just had to learn marketing in order for me to achieve the ambition behind this project, I just had to shut the fuck up and learn marketing at a level that is going to actually make that happen. Do you guys know what I mean? Like, if you have a dream of like lifting a car or whatever, right? You have to go and like do the work to get strong enough to lift a car. Am I blowing anybody's mind there? Right? If you have a dream of like punching through a fucking if you have a dream of punching through a metal pipe, you have to go and work on your punch. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Right? Just go and do it. It's not that hard. Most of the skills we learned today just involve reading books. Reading for like extended periods of months sucks the shit out of your brain. Like it really hurts sometimes. But you can pick the pain of discipline today or the pain of regret tomorrow. Because sometimes you just might not be aware of how bad you are at something. And sometimes when you work on new aspects of yourself, you get worse at other things. So I used to sell life insurance. And what's crazy is that looking back on the life insurance perspective, you don't talk to them at all about risk management. You don't talk to them about underwriting. You just talk to them about protecting their family from a scenario where they die spontaneously. Do you guys know what I mean? All you're doing is just like kind of like painting a scenario in their head and ask them like, so if you were to get struck by lightning Saturday, if you were talking to a couple and let's say they are called John and Jane and they're married, and you would say to Jane like, so Jane, if John gets hit by a bus on the way to work tomorrow, where are your next 3 mortgage payments coming from? And you just ask her that, right? You have to build rapport with people first. Otherwise, you can't fucking ask people questions like that. But you literally want to put them into that state of thinking and then like say they don't know. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, then we have a life insurance. You get what I'm saying? You solve that problem and you kind of like address that pain, which is the uncertainty. People don't move towards uncertainty. They move from the feeling of uncertainty towards certainty. So what life insurance is a certainty product. Do you guys get what I'm saying? There you go. Jim Rohn. Hell yeah. Jim Rohn quote. Also, so I have to, I'm not going to stop doing my System 2 stuff. But I think a lot more of the PYRESWAP show will be towards System 1. And the good news is that I'm building an inventory of stories right now. So arguably, the PYRESWAP show could involve me just telling stories and just working that out with feedback on the show. Because those stories would still be educational, but I could at least get audience feedback, figure out what people are learning, what they're not learning, what they care about, what they don't care about. Do you guys get what I'm saying there? Okay. So that's what I learned as well. So I used to always talk to System 2. I would try to make things, acronyms, diagrams. Those are good things that I do in System 2. But at the same time, in order to get people to move towards your System 2 shit, you got to talk to them on System 1 first. You got to compel them. And that's why How to Tell When to Sell, you're like, this doesn't sound like Five at all. And arguably, we recorded that like, the beginning of December or whatever. And even in the last month, I'm still like probably, 4 or 5 or 6 books past that. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So just in the last, I'm even better than How to Tell When to Sell now. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So that's what Learn PYRESWAP is going to be. I'm going to refine How to Tell When to Sell to make it better and then funnel into learnpyreswap.com. Because once you funnel them into learnpyreswap.com, they're going to get really warmed up until they're fucking hot traffic, until they'll be like, holy shit, I want to buy Pyre Phantom before the next time I blink. That is possible through a skill set called marketing. That is actually possible. It is not a mystery. Colleges teach this shit as a major. There are over a dozen textbooks on the subject. Yeah, just like computer science, just like medicine, it is a real thing. You can be good at it and bad at it. Marketing does involve a lot of like behavioral economics, which is like a nice transition for me. But I didn't realize certain ways that marketing looked at things, which is different than economics. And while I would prefer to talk to people objectively, like scientifically kind of about economics, that's not what people... I gotta tell stories, dude. That's really it. I realized that a lot of people... don't worry about it. Sorry. I gotta stop doing that. I realized that a lot of people are unaware of their cognitive biases. I've been hyper aware of cognitive biases for over a decade. So it's kind of unimaginable for me to be not aware of cognitive biases. But there are dozens of cognitive biases that basically control people like robots. And in order to kind of, I don't want to say traffic people, because that sounds a little bit, what's the word? Ambiguous. In order to shepherd people and lead them to the right course of action, you have to speak to them on the System 1 level, not on System 2. Additionally, there's also things like vocal modulation and body language. So I want you guys to know, vocal modulation and story and body language through the vehicle of storytelling, you can leverage that a lot more. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like, arguably, when I'm doing the actual storytelling that's actual lore based, I can even try to let's put it this way. We may or may not have AI change my voice to speak certain characters. Okay? Really make the storytelling immersive. Make sense? By the way, I was also doing research on advertising that uses fantasy fiction. Did you guys know that there's advertising that uses fantasy fiction? Are you guys aware? Fascinating. I will be honest, and maybe nobody cares about this besides me, but we will have like a canon. We'll have like a lore canon. And then we'll also have, I think, ad lore. And in advertising, I have to kind of use... we'll call it like a more simplistic version of the PYRESWAP lore. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Because you guys get what I'm saying. All right. Anyways, yeah. What I mean by that, Alessio, is let's say this. Let's say that in PYRESWAP there's an epoch system, right? You've heard that word, epoch? Right. Now let's say, have you guys seen a diagram where you talk about the 3 different systems of time? Do you remember that diagram, Lesio? It's one of the ones that most people don't remember because we don't really like reference it right now. But you remember it, right? 3 different systems of time. What I mean to say, Alessio, is in what you would describe as like canonic lore. Yeah. I can describe it that we have 3 vocabularies, okay? We have the vocabulary of like the economics, which is like epoch, right? Transpire epoch, right? Then we have a vocabulary which is like Yalderfang, King Schnaxamander, right? The actual lore vocabulary, right? And you might remember that they don't actually call them epochs in the lore, right? But like we use the epoch to symbolize this period of time in the fantasy fiction, right? And okay, so what I'm saying is, in order for our ad copy to work, Alessio, we can't use the word epoch. And we also can't use whatever the fuck those made up fictional units of time are. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So what that means is we have to be a bit flexible with the lore. Remember, do you remember, Alessio, that the story yesterday, we said that the loans were for 3 months? Remember 3 months? So in the actual the canon lore, they don't use the word month, do they? Because I think, what is it, 27 months in a year or some shit? And I will explain why I made the reason I made the time, the calendar of the lore different is so it would be fair to people on planet Earth. And what I mean by that is there are 4 epochs for a reason. And the reason why is that I don't want the same people on the same continents to always win. Does that make sense? I don't know if it makes sense. I realize I jump through these fucking concepts. Okay, but I know Dr. Macalesio too, but what I mean to say is, even though this project is 80% on North America and Europe, I still think Asia and Australia should be able to win. Does that make sense? And because of that, the calendar needs to be a bit out of sync with planet Earth. Because in order for us to implement time value of money, okay, fuck it. I'm not gonna jump through all those tangents, but you guys at least understand the concept of why that's the case. Anyways, I want to talk about a bunch of other cool stuff. Yeah. Instead of saying, here's why you should buy Pyre Phantom, what you're supposed to say is I was once undecided about Pyre Phantom myself. The reason I now hold Pyre Phantom is because XYZ. Right? I was once not a believer in Tomb Forks myself. Abuelito, I wish you a blessed year in 2025, and I hope to be a prime mover for some of your blessings, sir. Or should I say, I hope that this project, which has taken much more than the efforts of one person to get this far, will realize its promised potential in 2025. Sooner than you think. Sooner than you think. Again, exponential. I think the human minds fail to understand how introducing an exponent can change things. Hey, all I'm saying is so far the numbers look like I'm at least 600 times better than, I'm at least 30 times better at marketing now than I was in June. Maybe as good as 900 times better. I've at least now read a dozen books on marketing. I may or may not, let's put it this way, once I get to Peg and prove all of the internet wrong, I will release a list of the 15 books I read on marketing and share that with the rest of Web3. Or not, or never, or keep that and carry that to my grave. I'll think about it. Do these heathens deserve that type of hookup? I don't know. Anyways, the communication triad I showed you before is also assisted by a toolbox. Words, body language, vocal tonalities. So the words I use have to be shorter. Does that make sense? Fantastic. Your communication inputs change your audience's mental states. And for every action you desire, an ideal mental state inspires maximum action. And you can identify and create it. I'm talking about a mental state. What is a mental state? We can break the ideal mental state down into a series of qualities, each with a spectrum of magnitude. Thus, with your persuasive inputs, you can move people up and down those spectrums to achieve the desired mental state. For example, let's say you're a politician campaigning for votes. What ideal mental state pushes the most people to vote for you? It includes qualities like anger towards the other party, belief in personal gain, Belief in personal gain if you win. Agreement with values. Feeling of personal connection. Oh, and then policy agreement. Yeah. For each quality, your audience can be anywhere. Alessio, yes, but I want you to know, super secret, I need to succeed just to destroy him. If you want to know what are some of the things that motivate me, sometimes I accidentally tell people. But I want you to understand, before I go on a single interview, Alessio, I will be rehearsed like an actor. And I want you to know that, like, you're completely correct, Alessio, because the way that Murad rose to prominence is he gave this extremely emotional and passionate speech that really didn't have data behind it. It just had an argument. And since people gravitate towards people take action on system 1 and not system 2, right? But because they're taking action on system 1, the system 2 people are now, the wolves, as it were. The wolves are now following the sheep into the fucking scams. Do you guys get what I'm saying? This is arguably, I have learned so much. From marketing, like learning marketing about how Web3 works. And it's like, wow, I get it now, yeah. Because somebody from system 1 would fucking buy a meme coin just based on like laughing about it, right? Or just like, you know what I mean? They'd have that poggers feeling. And then a person on system 2, they would go chase them in there just to kind of rob them. Dude, like Web3 needs a fucking sheriff, dude. I'm just being honest. With your persuasive inputs, you can move people up and down these spectrums. So the fact of the matter is that everybody you're talking to has a score between 1 through 10 on these qualities and these values. So what you say can make them angrier. What you say can make them have a higher belief in their personal gain. What you say can make them agree more with your values. What you say can make them connect with you more on a personal and emotional level. Does that make sense? You want to make these things go up. You want to say the things that cause these things to go closer to 10 because that causes more motivation. Storytelling does this extremely effectively, which is why we have literally quadrupled down on storytelling. I don't even want to show you the level of storytelling we're getting. I mean, you guys saw the hat, right? Did you guys see the hat? I'll put on the hat again. Am I on the big screen? Are you looking at the chat? Oh, I am on the big screen. Okay. You don't have me in the minimized? You don't have me on? Oh, there we go. Yeah. Do you guys like this hat? Very posable. Yeah. Like, I really like it because it's like I'm not going... you guys know I just prefer kind of like the Bog Witch look and not like looking like a Fantasia sorcerer. And because I think that the Bog Witch seems more like you're on an adventure as opposed to being a wizard in the fucking tower. And, you know, do you guys get what I'm saying? Like, I think the adventurer look is more relatable. And I want you guys to know, you know, this is like part of the outfit I wear when I tell stories. So who tells stories in a fantasy fiction setting? What's the word? I know Pirate Producer might know. Four-letter word. Who's a storyteller in a fantasy fiction setting? 4-letter word, you guys. Do you guys know? No. Well done. Well, way to make it a 5-letter word. But he is obviously saying the word bard. Does that make sense? Bard, right? And granted, I'm not going to have a loot or anything like that. Yeah. Oh, were you going to say that, CJ? You should have just said it, your answer. Yeah. Anyways, the point being, or a skald in Old Norse. All right, CJ. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you participating in chat regardless. And point being though is that like okay, you know what? I'm not gonna tell you guys about the costume. I'll just show it to you guys when we launch learnPyReswap.com. Okay. Anyways. Alessio, perfect question. The first story will talk about me, and it will actually be very similar. You've heard the whole PYRESWAP origin story, right? So the first story that anybody should hear about me in any capacity. First of all, this will also be the first video on learnPyReswap.com, right? So this will also be the first video, and it will literally be about my personal story in 2022 that like motivated me to fix the problem based on the pain that I felt. And by the way, there's a name for that pain. I know you guys don't care about that. Hang on. Let me find it. Hang on. Sorry, it's a bias. Hang on. Oh, hang on. I'm so close to finding it. I know this is boring content when you guys are just watching me do this. You know, I'm not gonna find it. Yeah. Okay. The point being is that there's a motivation around being so close. Do you guys get what I'm saying? I'll describe it because I don't know the name of it because I can't find it. But like, if you can ever imagine, like, let's say you were like this close to something great, and then like it immediately fell through your fingers. Do you guys know the feeling? Okay, well anyways, there's an actual name for that feeling and a name for a motivation around like completing that that goal. So like my personal motivation, I would talk a lot about that particular like emotional driver, right? And then like yeah, because the fact of the matter is that type of emotion, which again, I have it in this notebook, I just can't find it right now, is literally something that compels a lot of people who have lost money in crypto to play again. Do you guys get what I'm saying? So one of the reasons why I would target that is how to tell when to sell is also kind of in the neighborhood of that, right? Because if people haven't taken a loss before, it's like, how would they, like, why would they know that pain, right? Right? So the first story is about me, right? It'll always be the same story about me. Limerence. Let me see. Am I describing limerence? Nope. Yeah, I don't think so. No, it is not. It's not. Yeah. Okay. Well, CJ, it is not a romanticism of anything. Yeah, it's not a romantic. Yeah. I don't think it's the word limerence at all. It has like the name of it is like 4 words with hyphens. The actual. You know what's funny? You're now triggering that motivator on me going to find that motivator. Because like I'm like, oh, I almost found it, and then you're like bringing it back up that I didn't find it. Like okay, so I don't know if you're trolling me on purpose or like coming up with like fake words to like make me want to go find the real word, because that's literally the same motivator. Okay, so anyways, yeah, the motivator that I can't find the name of, CJ, because he's using the wrong word and talking about the wrong thing completely, is now remotivating me. It's the same fucking thing that happened in 2022. Anyways, the point being is that you basically you tell a story about yourself that people find parallels to. That is not what we're talking about at all. It is not lovesick. Yeah, CJ, I haven't felt lovesick since I was a teenager. Yeah. CJ, describe a rage where you stay up at night fantasizing about smashing people's heads with skull. Well, like I don't know who you think I am, but like think more about like, oh, you know Taxi Driver where he's doing the push-ups and he's cutting his hair? Have you guys seen Taxi Driver where he's doing the push-ups and he's cutting his hair and he's fucking like going crazy in his room? That motivation. Yeah, that motivation. Yeah, so me going into Taxi Driver mode was the motivation. Yeah, definitely not like lovesick or anything like that. But yeah, it's still like an emotional motivator. Does that make sense? It's about like, you know, in Taxi Driver, he has his own worldview and he's going to correct it by like shooting up a bunch of people. And mine would be the same, correcting, you know, something to my own worldview, but I don't end up shooting people over it, right? Rather, I end up like acquiring Tomb Forks and then fucking building PYRESWAP. Does that make sense? But that's the fucking emotion. So the Taxi Driver, you know, do you guys know? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Travis Bickle. Did we lose the stream here? Can you guys hear and or see me right now? I know it's back. Okay. Yeah, no. It's that motivator. Like the motivator in Taxi Driver. Yeah, that part. Yes, thank you. Yeah, that is me in like that is me when Terra Luna collapsed. Does that make sense to you guys? Do you guys remember Terra Luna collapsing? Okay, yeah. I was in Travis Bickle mode after Terra Luna collapsed. Does that make sense to you guys? So it caused a transition, and then I went in Travis Bickle, but it is not limerence. Not even close to this. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, unless you would describe this part of Taxi Driver as love sickness, but I just don't feel like that's a word for it at all. But by the way, guys, did you notice that what my brain was able to remember was a story? Did you guys notice that? Did you guys notice that the human brain pulled a story? Yeah, so yeah, even Five's brain, because I couldn't find the word, I pulled out a movie from 25 years ago. You mean like, did Do Kwon make videos? I have no idea about the videos, yeah. Terra Luna videos? I did not see any of those videos. But, I believe you, yeah. Okay. Anyways, indeed. Okay. Oh yeah, CJ, I think it actually crashed like more than 99% because now it's down to like, you know, 4 zeros and it used to be like $80 or something like that. I don't know. But anyways, yes, it was enough. It was enough to you know, cause an international scandal. But anyways. Okay, does anyone have any questions? I'm assuming no. Okay, we're gonna end the PYRESWAP show now. And I'll see you guys tomorrow with a brand new hat. I'm kidding. Probably the same hat. Maybe I'll show you guys more stuff tomorrow as well. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you on Wisdom Wednesday tomorrow. Bye-bye.